The ceiling is above you before you decide to look at it. 3:07. You know without checking. You check anyway. The phone's face brightens. That specific whiteness that lands in the back of your skull like a small collision. You put it down. You pick it up. You put it down. The room is a shape you can feel more than see, and somewhere in the walls a fridge is humming the same note it hummed at midnight. Sleep has left. You can feel the space it used to fill. The alarm is 4 hours away, and you are wide awake for no reason you can name. Something is wrong, and the word arrives on schedule. Broken. Something is wrong with your sleep. Something is wrong with you. You think you learned this panic? You didn't. You didn't develop this waking. You inherited it from every human who ever slept before Edison and every ancestor who slept before them. Sleep wasn't one long block. It was two, and the hour between them wasn't a bug. It was the point. Once you see it, the 3 a.m. ceiling never looks the same again. The panic doesn't hold. The clock does, but not the way you think. Almost nobody hears this. It sits in old books and one lab study and a handful of history journals, and it quietly rearranges the entire shape of what you thought sleeping was. Roll the clock back, past your smartphone, past your childhood bedroom, past the television, past the electric grid your grandparents remember arriving in the village, past the gas lamp. Keep going, past cities lit by anything at all, past the factory whistle, past the printing press, past the medieval monastery, the Roman villa, the Homeric campfire. Keep falling. You land in a stone farmhouse in England, or a hut in France, or a family sleeping shoulder to shoulder in a room somewhere in the 1500s, or the 1200s, or the 800s, or Homer's world, nearly 3,000 years ago. Pick a century. Pick a language. The pattern is the same. The sun has been down for 6 hours. There is no light in the room except what a low fire throws on the wall, and only if someone has been feeding it. Outside, the dark is total. Not dark like your bedroom. Dark like a cave. Dark like a sea. The family's asleep. Not going to sleep. Deep in it. Slabs of it. This is the first sleep. And in about an hour, they are all going to wake up. 14 hours. A winter night at English latitude ran 14 hours long. 14 hours of black. That is a long time to be a small, warm mammal in a world that contained wolves, cold, and firelight that died without a hand on it. No animal your size sleeps 14 hours straight. The body doesn't have the architecture for it. Sleep too long in one piece, and you overheat, or your bladder wakes you, or your muscles cramp, or a predator learns your rhythm and comes for you in the deepest part. Sleep too shallowly, and you never recover. The mammalian sleep system was shaped by nights that were long, cold, and dangerous. It never solved for one uninterrupted block. It solved for something else. Someone had to tend the fire, or the fire went out. And when the fire went out in a stone room in February, people did not always wake up. Someone had to hear the door. Someone had to hear the animal in the yard. Someone had to notice the child who had stopped breathing. The night was too big to sleep through in one piece. It was too dangerous to leave unguarded. Most animals fail this test. They compromise. Light sleep all night, taking the metabolic hit, or they burrow, gambling on the burrow holding, or they don't survive. Your ancestors did something else, something almost nobody thinks of as an adaptation. They wrote a program, not a mutation, an architecture. The body dropped into 14 hours of darkness, doesn't try to sleep through it. It splits. First sleep, about 4 hours, deep, dreamless slabs. The body drops so far in that if you were shaken, you would come back slowly and stupid from a long way down. This is repair sleep, slow wave, the kind your growth hormone runs in. Then the body climbs, not into full daytime alertness, into something else. A quiet, wakeful window, 1 to 2 hours. Calm, lucid, meditative. Prolactin rises in the blood, the same hormone elevated in nursing mothers and in Zen meditators mid-session. The mind is not agitated. It is watching. People use this hour. They prayed in it, had sex in it, fed the fire, visited a neighbor, wrote in it, read by moonlight. Medieval manuals gave specific advice on what to do between the two sleeps. A French physician named Laurent Joubert, writing in the 1500s, said manual laborers were fertile because they had sex after the first sleep, when they, his words, have more enjoyment and do it better. Then second sleep, another 4 hours, dream heavy, REM rich. This is where memory got sorted, where the day was filed, and this is documented in writing. Over and over. A historian at Virginia Tech named A. Roger Ekirch spent decades pulling the references out of court depositions, medical books, diaries, poems, prayer manuals. His book, At Day's Close, published by Norton in 2005, began with more than 500 references to first sleep and second sleep in pre-industrial English. By 2022, the count was over 2,000 references in a dozen languages, reaching back to Homer and Virgil. His earliest smoking gun, a 1697 London Assizes deposition where a 9-year-old girl named Jane Routh described her mother waking after her first sleep. Think about that for a second. A 9-year-old in court in 1697 using the phrase the way a modern child would use bedtime. And then, in 1992, at the National Institute of Mental Health, a psychiatrist named Thomas Ware put 7 people in a room for 4 weeks with a 14-hour dark period every night. No instruction, no expectation. He just gave their bodies the night that Ekirch's ancestors had. Within weeks, all 7 had split their sleep in 2, roughly 4 hours, a wakeful hour or 2, roughly 4 more. The program was still in there. It only needed the dark. For most of written history in the temperate world, this was sleep, not a technique, not a discipline. The default. Homer wrote about the first sleep the way we would write about lunch, assuming everyone knew. Virgil used it in the Aeneid and expected a Roman audience to nod. Chaucer used it. English court records used it. French physicians prescribed the interval. Italian priests scheduled prayer for it. For roughly 3,000 years of written record, and almost certainly for far longer than that in the body, every human being who slept through a temperate latitude winter woke up in the middle of the night, and nobody panicked. Because nobody had been told anything was wrong. The architecture passed down, unbroken, generation after generation. Not a gene switched on for the clever few. A pattern the darkness itself pulled out of the body. Give the body the night. The night gives you 2 sleeps. The circuit was intact. The environment held. The program ran. For 3,000 documented years. For a lot longer than that in the body. Let me be honest with you. There is a complication. In 2015, a team led by Gandhi Yetish and Jerome Siegel at UCLA published a study in Current Biology on 3 modern hunter-gatherer societies, the Hadza of Tanzania, the San of Namibia, the Semane of Bolivia. They wore watches that tracked their sleep for weeks. Result? Consolidated monophasic sleep, about 6.5 hours. No wakeful interval. The San and the Semane don't even have a word in their languages for insomnia. So the story is not all humans always slept in 2 shifts. That would be too neat. But look at the map. All 3 of those societies live within 20 degrees of the equator. Their nights run about 12 hours year-round. They never see the 14-hour darkness that produced biphasic sleep in Vare's lab and shaped the European pattern Ekirch documented. The honest claim is smaller and more elegant. Your sleep architecture responds to darkness. Give it a long night and it splits. Give it a short one and it holds. Ekirch's Europeans had the long night. Yetish's equatorial hunter-gatherers don't. And you have never in your life had a real night at all. Which brings you back to your ceiling at 3:07. You fell asleep around 11, 4 hours ago. The first sleep just closed. Your body has done exactly what it was built to do. Dropped its deepest slabs, done the repair, and come up into the old wakeful window. Prolactin is probably rising in your blood right now. If nothing else were happening, you would lie here calm, awake, watching the room, and in an hour or so, you would slide down into the dream-heavy second half. Second sleep. The circuit is intact. Every ancestor who slept through a temperate winter is running in your body at this exact moment. The program didn't die. It didn't even weaken. Give it a 14-hour dark room for a month and it would come back on schedule and unembarrassed. Your body isn't malfunctioning. It's on time. But here's the trap. And it is not the trap you think. This isn't a reflex misfiring. A reflex misfires when the trigger looks like the old trigger but isn't. That's not what's happening here. What's happening in your body right now is a scheduled program running exactly on cue in an environment that has been rewritten around it while it slept. The 14-hour night is gone. Gas lamps came in the late 1600s. Edison's bulb in 1879. The grid, the office, the television, the screen. Your night is now 6 hours long, and only because you decide to close your laptop. The window between the 2 sleeps used to open into more darkness. It now opens into a room where the ancient wakeful hour has nowhere to go. And then you make it worse. Not because you're weak, because the tools you reach for in the dark are engineered exactly against the program. You pick up the phone, blue light, 480 nanometers, that specific wavelength, hits your retina. Your suprachiasmatic nucleus, the small cluster of cells behind your eyes that runs the master clock, reads that as sunrise. It cancels the melatonin. It ends the sleep pressure. You Google, why do I wake up at 3 a.m.? You take a supplement. You lie there trying to force the second sleep to arrive while doing every single thing that tells the body it isn't coming. The industrial workday demanded one consolidated block, and by the early 1900s, references to first sleep had vanished from English. The word insomnia moved into the empty room. The wakeful hour was renamed as a disease. The program is running. The night that used to catch it isn't there anymore. What breaks your sleep is not the waking. It's what you do to the waking. You are not doing anything wrong. The program is doing what it was built to do in a room that no longer exists. Your ancestors in the 1500s got the same wake-up call at the same hour. They rolled over and talked to a spouse in the dark, or fed the fire, or lay there listening to the house, and then they slept again. Not because they were disciplined, because the room was still dark, and the clock had not yet been invented to shame them. Nobody wrote this into you. The night did, and the night is what got taken away. 3:07. The ceiling, the phone in your hand. You're not an insomniac, you're a sentinel. Older than the light bulb, older than the clock. Somewhere in a stone room in the 1500s, someone with your exact wiring is sitting up in the dark, listening to a fire, waiting for the second sleep to arrive. The signal reached you. You aren't broken, the clock is.